the south and maybe across some parts of Wales and southwest England. It is going to be a dry picture by the afternoon with some sunny breaks. Yes, clouds building through the day, but some decent sunshine on offer, and in the sunshine feeling warm enough even though temperatures are a touch below average for the time of year. Another chilly night to come as we go through tomorrow night and into Thursday, and then a fine picture through Thursday itself for most, though some blustery winds towards the northwest and also towards the southeast, and here there will be a bit more cloud and perhaps one or two showers. More fine weather on Friday, but by Saturday, well, that's when we could see a band of rain pushing its way in. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M8 westbound at junction 7A is delayed due to a broken down vehicle. The M40 southbound between junctions 12 and 11 faces delays due to a road incident. On the M53 northbound near junction 9, a collision closed one lane, causing 10-minute delays. In Leicestershire, the M1 northbound between junctions 20 and 21 has 2 lanes closed due to an altercation. The A417 southbound is obstructed between the A436 and A419 due to a collision. And on the trains, Great Northern and Elna services between Stevenage and Peterborough are disrupted. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. This brand new 2025 Benamar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening. Donald Trump speaks to the UN General Assembly and says mass migration means that European countries are going to hell. The reference is to do with crime. We debate, is he right? A former Labour minister comes on this programme to say eco-zealots are blocking growth. Is he referring to the planning laws or perhaps having a go at Ed Miliband? And Sir Geoffrey Boycott joins us live this evening to pay tribute to Harold Dickie Bird, Barnsley boy, famous umpire who has died today, age 92. But before all of that and more, let's get the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nigel, thank you very much. The top stories. Donald Trump tells the UN General Assembly it's time to end the failed experiment of open borders as he accused the UN of facilitating an invasion of Western countries. Mr. Trump said the European continent is in serious trouble over migration, while also criticising its failure to cut off Russian energy products as embarrassing. Mr. Trump also hit back at countries recognising Palestinian statehood, saying that recognising it as such would be a reward for the terrible atrocities Hamas has committed, as he told the terror group to release the hostages now. It comes after Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper confirmed Britain now recognises Palestinian statehood, warning the two-state solution is in profound peril.
Unfortunately, Hamas has repeatedly rejected reasonable offers to make peace. We can't forget October 7th, can we? Now, as if to encourage continued conflict, some of this body is seeking to unilaterally recognize a Palestinian state. The rewards would be too great for Hamas terrorists for their atrocities. This would be a reward for these horrible atrocities, including October 7th, even while they refuse to release the hostages or accept a ceasefire.
Sarah Davey told the Lib Dem conference today not to let Nigel Farage turn the UK into Donald Trump's America. He said the Lib Dems want to transform our economy, our public services and our politics before pivoting to say Farage wants to change the UK away from the country we love. Davey also issued a direct message to disaffected Tory voters thinking of switching away from their traditional party, telling them to join his party to oppose this failing Labour government, he said, and offer our great country real change. The Home Office has lost a Court of Appeal bid to challenge a High Court ruling granting an Eritrean man a temporary block on being deported to France. The ruling will be a blow to ministers who'd been hoping to make headway with their one-in, one-out migrant returns deal with France. Under the deal, the UK can send back any migrant who crosses the Channel illegally in return for accepting the same number of migrants in France who have a valid asylum claim here. However, only 4 people have been deported under the scheme so far, including one Afghan individual who was deported to France this afternoon. The Eritrean man was granted a temporary block on his removal after he claimed he'd been a victim of modern slavery. And legendary cricket umpire Dickie Bird has died at the age of 92. Yorkshire confirmed that earlier this afternoon. In a statement, the club said, "It is with profound sadness we announce the passing of Harold Dennis Dickie Bird. He died peacefully at his home." One of cricket's most beloved figures, he had an illustrious career, writing his name into history as the most famous and popular official in the game's history. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me in an hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Today at the UN General Assembly in New York, President Donald Trump spoke. He said that global warming was a gigantic con. But the one thing that really stuck out was him talking about mass migration into European countries and how it means they are all going to hell. Let's hear him.
When your prisons are filled with so-called asylum seekers who repaid kindness, and that's what they did, they repaid kindness with crime. It's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. See, I can tell you, I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell.
Well, as ever with Donald Trump, you might think he goes a little bit over the top, but he always has a point. Let's have a look at a graph here of the European prison population by citizenship. Well, if you look closely, you'll see that in countries like Greece, over 50% of people in those prisons are foreign-born. So he did have a point. But that links in today to a story. Remember all the protests outside the Bell Hotel in Epping over an alleged series of sexual assaults? Well, today, Hadash Kabutu, was sentenced to 12 months in prison on 2 counts of sexual assault. 1 count of attempted sexual assault, 1 count of inciting a girl to engage in sexual activity, 1 count of harassment but without violence. And remember, one of the women involved in this was a 14-year-old girl. So that's just one example, but let me ask you the broader question. Is Trump right? Are European countries going to hell through irresponsible migration policies? Let me know your thoughts. Hashtag Farage on GB News or email farage@gbnews.com. I am joined in the studio by Marcus Johnson, Managing Director of PCD Solicitors, by Joe Phillips, journalist and former press secretary to Paddy Ashdown, and Sir Reynold Jar-Wardner, former Conservative Minister. Marcus, I'm struck. These are really quite serious offences.
They are.
That the man's been found guilty of.
Yes.
He gets 12 months.
Yes.
He's been on remand for 3 months. Given that probably he'll only serve 40% of the year, he'll be out in a few weeks.
He'll be out by Christmas. And it's a very, very sad indictment of the state of our criminal system and the sentencing system. It makes a mockery of everything. And I've worked in crime for most of my working life. And the deterioration that we've seen in the so-called justice system is terrible.
I mean, this is a very light sentence, isn't it?
Well, if you think about it, Nigel, for a sexual assault, a single sexual assault, it carries up to 10 years in prison. He's been convicted of 2 sexual assaults and an attempted assault, which equally carries 10 years in prison. The inciting a child to engage in sexual activity carries 14 years maximum in prison. If you add all of that together, you're up over 40 years there or thereabouts of what the maximum sentence could have been. Now, we know they're concurrent, they all put them together, which is, many people think that's hard to understand why. But to then commit those offences, having entered the country illegally, and receive 12 months, of which he'll be out in a couple of months, probably.
And apparently he said he wants to be deported, but no sign that he will be.
There's no sign. He says that, but I think his lawyers have already started to work the system for his right to remain, because they've already talked about his mental ill health.
Oh, yes, of course.
And, of course, that's always a block to deporting somebody. So the human rights issues will say, well, look, if you've got mental health issues, we can't deport you, so you then have to stay. And so that's the system that we have. So anybody who has the right lawyers will work out the way in which they remain in the country.
So I'm not going to ask you the political question of whether European countries are going to hell, but is our judicial system going to hell?
Well, I hope not, but it does seem that way. It's just that nobody's really got to grips with the problem. We've had forever a problem with the prison system. There's no rehabilitation in the system. People come out of prison and re-offend.
And they're even worse when they come out.
Worse when they come out. There's more and more offences and different types of offences, including online offences, which the courts, police are just not able to deal with. They don't have the manpower, the resources to deal with that problem. And, of course, we've now got the massive immigration issue, of which, for many, many years, I've dealt with a number of the grooming gang cases over the years, particularly in the north of England. Nobody's ever been able to speak about that problem for fear of being called racist. I know, and I've spoken with police officers, prison officers, probation officers, CPS lawyers, who, off the record, will say, look, we know the problem, but we can't do anything about it. We're scared to do anything about it. And that's lasted for years. And it's only the last maybe 12, 18 months where people have been able to open up and say, look, we've got a major problem here. We need to do something about it.
Well, a major cultural problem, too. I mean, point about this, Reynold, this guy's defence was, well, I didn't know we weren't allowed to behave like this in the UK. Now, whether that's true or not, and if you certainly go back to the grooming gangs that Marcus mentioned, these are massive cultural divides and differences. I mean, is Trump right? Are we going to hell through irresponsible immigration policies?
Well, I certainly think that he is representing the views of many people who believe right now, for perfectly reasonable reasons, that actually immigration has been too high, particularly illegal immigration. A lot of people believe that, people are playing the system, and we've just heard, the sense that people are playing the system. There's actually a lot of people who are legal migrants who also are furious with the migration system today, because they're looking at the fact that they've paid tens of thousands of pounds to come here legally, they're paid towards the NHS with a surcharge so that the British taxpayer isn't paying for their costs and so on. And they're seeing these people come on boats, being put up in hotels or houses, getting everything given to them on a plate. So this, I think, is a bigger problem than only British citizens who feel strongly about it. I think there are plenty of other people who feel strongly too. But there is a bigger point here, which is, I think things have changed. And it's not just, when I gave my maiden speech in 2015, I said that rights need to be balanced with responsibilities. I said that rights were not invented in 1998 when the Human Rights Act was created.
Certainly.
And, I was thought of as a terrible right-winger then. Now that is a very moderate and a well-understood view. David Blunkett, Jack Straw, these are Labour politicians who invented this system who have now said, enough is enough.
Joe, it depends a lot, doesn't it? Let's be frank about it. Which countries these people come from?
It does, but I think Marcus put it very well when he said nobody's got a grip on it. And we know we've had, the Inspector of Prisons in here, in this studio, not very long ago. We know that the prisons are overcrowded, there is no rehabilitation, the probation services and other services have been cut to the bone. We know that there has not been a grip on immigration, and the previous government were quite happy to put people in hotels and leave them there for years, hoping that nobody would notice. So a lot of this is stuff that has been building. But yes, you are right, Nigel, to a point that it does depend where people come from.
Because the problem is cultural.
Well, some of it
women are treated in a very different way in Afghanistan, for example, to what we would think reasonable here.
Women are treated appallingly in Afghanistan, but you would send women back to Afghanistan.
I'd send the men first.
Well, yeah. But, I've lived and worked abroad, as you know, in the Middle East, and I have never felt safer than when I was in Syria and Jordan. Actually, much safer. And I found people very respectful and, helpful and nice, and I was never concerned at all. So some of it does depend on the cultural thing, but it also is about how you can either get people moved on quickly or integrate them properly. But what we have failed to do is neither of those.
But we have groups here that don't want to integrate. We have groups here that actually want us to adopt their way of life.
Well, we have groups here who need to be sent on a plane because they've come here illegally and they should be processed offshore. And, what is criminal is whether you like it or not, the Rwanda scheme was there, and there are actually Labour politicians now advocating something very similar. That scheme would have allowed people to be processed offshore.
Well, it would have done, Ranald, but, remember the Rwanda scheme?
Yes.
And what happened? A judge in Strasbourg at 10 o'clock at night said, no, are we ever, unless we change completely the human rights system, going to deal with any of this?
No, in a word. But also you mentioned and referred to the other countries where you felt safe. But have a look at what their sentencing regime is in some of those countries. You commit an offence in those countries, there's severe consequences. You commit horrific sexual offences in this country and you perhaps spend a couple of months in prison. I mean, the chap today, with his sentence, £187 victim surcharge. Well, a motorist would get more than that for breaking the speed limit.
Marcus, is that assault, I think, happened in July. So it was very quick going to court, wasn't it? And there are people out there right now who have been waiting years for rape and sexual assault cases to come to court. So, you could argue that this has been fast-tracked because he was an illegal migrant asylum seeker, and it was very, huge publicity. Meanwhile, there are people, either accused people or victims whose lives are in limbo and they are waiting years for these...
No, that can happen, but equally, Lucy Connolly was in court very, very quickly indeed and got a 31-month sentence.
But it's that two-tier system that we have.
So this is the one thing that the Prime Minister clearly hates to be said. You're telling me you believe we're living in two-tier justice?
We do. We see this time and time again with Lucy Connolly and the tweets. And it was the people accused at that time, fast-tracked through the system, all encouraged to plead guilty, all got severe sentences. How does somebody get 2.5-year sentence for putting out a tweet that's then retracted, and somebody gets 12 months for severe sexual offences against a child?
Which could lead up to 14 years in prison.
Which... nobody could make sense of that. So we do have a two-tier system that we see time and time again, and that has to stop because it's not benefiting anybody.
Marcus, do you have faith in the new Home Secretary, who seems much tougher?
Well, not really, because nobody's getting to grips with the problem with the prison system, because there is a huge... well, the prisons are full, but the only way of solving the prison problem is just stop detecting crime. And if you double the police force, you double the number of people caught, you need double the prison places.
Yeah.
It's an ever-increasing problem that the governments are afraid to deal with because it doesn't have the resources, and it's not a vote winner to say there's now more and more people committing crime. It's a vote winner to say we've now cut down on crime.
But it's the truth. The public deserve the truth.
They do.
Well, Mark, I was going to say thank you for coming in, your very frank assessment of this. Now, we have a statement from our friends at the Home Office. Oh, yes. It is our long-standing policy not to comment on individual cases, but when foreign nationals commit serious crimes in our country, we will always do everything in our power to deport them. Well, that's very useful, isn't it? In a moment, we will talk. About what is happening through our energy policy. And who are the blockers? Who are the blockers? Are we being blocked by quangos, or is the problem deeper inside government?
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Some of your reactions to Trump saying European societies are going to hell. Stephen says he ain't wrong. Our societies are becoming poorer and dysfunctional. We can either have a welfare state or open borders. We cannot have both. Even those on the left should understand this. Anna says he went into the serpent's nest and told them exactly how it is. Amazing. President Trump cares more about the United Kingdom than our so-called Labour government. Tell you what he does care more about. He cares more about Jimmy Lai and the rights of Hong Kongers who've been locked up than anybody in the British government. ever has the guts to say. And Cooper says, 6 cheers for Donald Trump, he is not wrong. Now, first we're going to deal with economic matters. The budget is not happening now until the 26th of November. That is very, very much later than we'd expected. And clearly, a government that claimed they'd been left a £22 billion black hole by the Conservatives, a claim that we heard over and over and over in the first 6 to 9 months of this government, now has its own massive problems. And an organisation you may never have heard of called the Resolution Foundation. They're a centre-left economic think tank. And boy, they are powerful. You know, Richard Hughes, who's the head of the OBR, he worked there. Dan Tomlinson, the Exchequer Secretary to the Treasurer, he worked there. And Torsten Bell, who was the former think tank's chief executive, who is now Minister of the Department for Work and Pensions. So this organisation is very, very powerful in terms of shaping the way that the Labour Party thinks and acts. And they are recommending a £6 billion tax raid on the 26th of November on pensioners, landlords and the self-employed. Well, it strikes me that we do have a darkening economic situation. Inflation is a lot more persistent than anybody thought it was going to be. The government's ability to borrow, issuing gilts, becoming more and more expensive with almost every week that goes by. But here's my problem with it. You know, 2 Fridays ago, I got my pension statement through. I looked through it, and it said from 2027 that this pension pot of mine will be subject to inheritance tax. And I thought, why the hell did I bother? Why did I bother all through the 90s and the early noughties to put money aside every year? Didn't buy new cars, didn't go to Barbados. I put the money aside thinking not only is it a pension for me, but if I drop down dead, it's money for the family. And I think if they were to do these things in this budget, it is a direct attack on thrift, a direct attack on saving. And people think, the hell with it, we'll spend it all down the pub or elsewhere, and when we get old, the state will simply look after us. Joe, that's how I feel about it. I feel quite strongly about it.
I can tell.
No, I know, I really do.
But, yes, I mean, I think it is very interesting that Torsten Bell, who was the person who was always speaking for the Resolution Foundation, only won a seat last year and is already a minister. And it
says a lot.
There's nothing new about that because it happens in all parties that people who come from think tanks and those sort of things, they end up in government because it's a sort of training ground. Unfortunately, not in the real world, which it used to be. And we could argue about that another day. I think what is worrying is that the Resolution Foundation, as far as I can understand, were also behind the recommendation of the inheritance tax on farmers, which has been awful.
Catastrophic.
Whether or not they were behind the cutting the winter fuel to pensioners, which came out of nowhere and will stay around Rachel Reeves' neck until she dies, who knows? But clearly the government is facing terrible, or the country is facing terrible economic circumstances. They need to really work out what they want to do. And there are 2 things that it seems to me that they have got to be really bold about. And one is to say, we are going to reform welfare because it's unsustainable. You know, we will look after the people who really need it, but no more can you just apply online and get this gateway to thing. And the other thing is to tackle the triple lock, which I know will be terribly, terribly unpopular.
For all passes.
But it has to happen. No. It's unsustainable.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that argument. I mean, when you think on universal credit right now, 1 in 6 on universal credit are foreign born. I mean, the system is being taken for a ride. But getting back to this, Ranald, I mean, you know, I feel very strongly. As I say, I ran my own company. I was cautious. I put money away. I'm now seriously beginning to wonder why I bothered. And to attack the self-employed, they get no sickness leave. They have a really tough job. And I just genuinely think this is an attack on saving, an attack on responsibility, an attack on the thrift that will end up in the long term costing the state even more.
Well, absolutely. I mean, just on pensions, private pensions first, you know, those changes were actually brought in 2014-15 to allow people to keep the money in the pot, keep it invested, so that they could indeed pass it on. And that's something I'm proud that we did do. Because you're right, we should be rewarding those who do the right thing, who, you know, save for their future, who want to provide for the next generation. That's an entirely human thing that we should encourage. And, you know, the problem here is that Labour have not only created a fictitious fictitious black hole that they try to blame on us, but they've actually deepened their own black hole with £40 billion worth of tax rises last time round that Rachel Reeves came out last autumn. She refused to make the welfare savings that were required. She didn't, and she and Keir Starmer didn't see off her backbenchers. Well, you know, there was an offer from Kemi, and I don't know what Reform would have done. You know, I'm sure there have been people across the House who would have voted for welfare reform and welfare reductions that actually were meaningful, but they didn't want to do that. And so that, frankly, they are failing to get really serious about that black hole.
But there seems to be such a lack of imagination, doesn't there?
I think, yes, I agree with that, but it's more than that. Somehow, between Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer, they are damaging confidence in the economy.
Yeah, of course.
The famous things can only get worse speech, but she doesn't inspire any economic confidence at all. Well, and it's all well and good if you're big American companies coming in and buying.
Yes, but not if you're an American pharmaceutical company that's pulling out, or a big multinational.
Or Ineos, Jim Ratcliffe, £3 billion he was going to invest in Britain's going to America.
I think there are different stories on that because energy prices doing very well. But there are lots of things. But the other thing that is really going to hit people, and they will notice it much more than savings, is food inflation, which is going up and up and up. A year ago, it was just above 1%. It's going to 6%. And that is going to hit people really hard. And, you know, the government is not going to turn things around until people feel more better.
And thoughts, Joe, on the self-employed?
Well, the self-employed, you know, I'm self-employed, as many people I'm sure watching this programme are. And you're caught every which way. You know, the government...
The idea that the budget will penalise you even more.
Well, you know, and we're already caught up in the whole IR35 thing. Lots more stuff that we now have to do quarterly returns instead of once a year. You know, that's a cost of an accountant and all the rest of it. But if you're a builder or a plumber or a journalist or whatever, you know, I don't get paid if I don't go to work.
It's as if this government is very much on the side of those in the public sector.
Well, I think
it almost has no comprehension of the points that Joe just raised.
This is the point. They don't understand the private sector because no one in the cabinet has ever been in business.
And that's the point.
No one understands. Exactly. No one understands the risk you have to take to set up a business, to employ people, and so on. No one understands the risk that business as a whole takes to grow our economy. It's from business growth that we can pay for everything else, and they just don't get it.
I don't think they understand it.
Well, and the other thing that I think is really significant, and we keep hearing people saying about it, is that sense of depression that's in so many places around the country where shops are closed up, businesses have gone bust, there's nothing, there's nail bars and phone shops and all that stuff, which makes people feel lacking confidence. So reform business rates, reform stuff like that.
Well,
change it so that you can...
What about changing personnel?
Well,
what about a new chancellor?
That's not going to happen, Nigel. No? He's done his big reshuffle. She's safe for the time being.
She stayed, and Miliband stayed, which leads me on to the next segment, because Lord Hunt will be joining us down the line in just a moment, and he was Energy Minister until May of this year. But he's come out to say that eco-zealots are blocking growth in the UK economy. And I'm going to ask him, is Ed Miliband a part of that problem?
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Parts of Europe could see some heavy rain and some thundery downpours as we head our way into Wednesday. Mostly dry and settled across Greece, plenty of sunshine here, but through Italy, around the Adriatic coastline, also southern parts of France and Switzerland could see some heavy thundery downpours, a risk of large hail and also some strong gusty winds. Across Spain and Portugal, though, largely settled, plenty of sunshine, fairly similar across the Canary Islands too. A mostly settled end to the week with a chance of more showers heading into the weekend and temperatures in the mid-20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again, very good evening to you. I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. You might need to turn your heating on again tonight as it is going to turn a little chilly once more with some clear skies and light winds, all due to an area of high pressure, the perfect ingredients for our temperatures to take a bit of a drop. Worth bearing in mind, we still have an occluded front across parts of the southeast, so a few showery bursts still to come here and a bit of showery rain pushing into some eastern parts overnight as well, but otherwise it is a dry picture with some lengthy clear skies. Like I said, those temperatures will be dropping. Towns and cities falling to mid to high single figures. Rural spots dipping close to or perhaps even a little bit below freezing in some places. So a touch of grass frost, even a bit of air frost perhaps, particularly across some parts of Scotland. Now, as we go through tomorrow morning, still some showers across parts of East Anglia and maybe Kent, and there may be a few other showers across southern parts through tomorrow itself, but generally dry. A band of cloud with some outbreaks of rain lingering across some central and northern parts of England. A dry start across Northern Ireland and mostly bright and fine across parts of Scotland, albeit just a little bit of cloud and a few spots of rain towards the far east and southeast. Through the day itself, that band of cloud and any rain's going to fizzle out as it gradually edges a bit further westward. So apart from one or two showers towards the south and maybe across some parts of Wales and southwest England, it is going to be a dry picture by the afternoon with some sunny breaks. Yes, clouds building through the day, but some decent sunshine on offer, and in the sunshine feeling warm enough even though temperatures are a touch below average for the time of year. Another chilly night to come as we go through tomorrow night and into Thursday, and then a fine picture through Thursday itself for most, though some blustery winds towards the northwest and also towards the southeast, and here there will be a bit more cloud and perhaps one or two showers. More fine weather on Friday, but by Saturday, well, that's when we could see a band of rain pushing its way in. Bye-bye.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So, Lord Philip Hunt was the former Energy Minister up until May 2025. And he's part of an organisation called Britain Remade, and he's basically saying that eco-zealots are blocking growth. And he gives one really very interesting example of Sizewell C, the proposed nuclear plant up on the Suffolk coast. And he says it went through 7 rounds of consultation, an 80,000-page environmental statement, and have a guess. The project that we were told originally might cost £15 billion is now going to cost £40 billion. It's amazing, Ranul, that the South Koreans do nuclear energy with no concessions on safety for a quarter of the price that we do it. There's a major structural problem here.
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely shocking. And, you know, I don't think any government's blameless, so let me just put that out there. I think that's important to be honest. But, you know, what's particularly shocking is EDF, who are running these sorts of projects in the UK, is a French company, and they can do it in France, just, you know, a few miles away from us, for significantly cheaper than they can do it here because of the regulation in this country. So they have the technology, they can be smarter, but we won't let them.
It's crackers. And the other thing, Joe, of course, is oil and gas. This was Trump earlier on urging Starmer to do something about North Sea oil and gas.
A lot of the countries that we're talking about in oil and gas, such as essentially closing the great North Sea oil. Oh, the North Sea, I know it so well. Aberdeen was the oil capital of Europe, and there's tremendous oil that hasn't been found in the North Sea. Tremendous oil. And I was with the Prime Minister I respect and like a lot, and I said, you're sitting with the greatest asset. They essentially closed it by making it so highly taxed that no developer, no oil company can go there.
He's dead right, isn't he?
No.
Come on, he is Why would you invest in exploration, risky mineral exploration? If it goes wrong, you lose every pound you put in. If it goes correctly, you only earn 22 pence.
Because we want to stop drilling in the North Sea.
We're going to be using oil and gas for decades.
Yes, but we want to stop doing that and look at other ways of energy. We want more investment in other things.
Joe, whatever we do with ludicrous windmills, vile solar farms, or ultimately nuclear, they're ghastly.
Nuclear is good.
Nuclear is good,
clean.
but it's going to take time.
Yes, but it shouldn't do, which is to go back to your original point.
But even with new technologies, let's say I'm too sceptical, but even with new technologies, we will be using oil and gas for many, many, many years to come. Isn't it rational that we produce it ourselves?
It is rational that we produce it ourselves, but what Donald Trump was saying was about the tax.
Yeah.
So, it's not about whether we're producing it ourselves.
Nobody will invest. Nobody is going to invest. I repeat this point. It's my view. Ronald, I can't see why, as an investor, I'd put £1 into the North Sea. If I didn't find the gas and oil I wanted, I'd lose it all. If I hit the jackpot, I'd make 22 pence out of the pound, because 78p would go in tax. It's mad.
Well, yeah, I mean...
your government did it.
We started
75,
some of this. Labour made it worse.
No. And Labour added threepence.
Well, they made it worse because they've also refused to grant licences. And that's a significant negative step as far as I'm concerned. It's cost good working people their jobs as well. 1,000 jobs a month have been lost as a result of Labour's decisions to refuse that future...
Because it wasn't just the oil, it was all the engineering.
That's right, exactly.
And everything in Aberdeen
the future
around
investment across the industry has cost 1,000 people a month their jobs. And, there are 7.5 billion barrels of oil in the North Sea. Last year, we imported 40% of our energy from imported oil and gas. Yeah. So, at the same time as removing jobs from British people, at the same time as a result, not getting the tax take, because, yes, there has always been a tax on North Sea oil.
Yeah, a tax, but not an extreme tax.
Correct. At the same time as not getting that tax take, we've been importing the oil from elsewhere. That just does not make any sense at all.
Do you think, Joe, that the net zero, there was a complete reassessment of what net zero actually means?
Well, I think most people don't know what it means, and I think that includes the people who say we support net zero. I think it's a meaningless gesture.
It's very expensive.
It's very expensive in some ways. I mean, I am all in favour of clean energy. I'm all in favour
if it works.
Being much more sensible about how we build things and how we do things. And we should have had, for years and years and years, we should have had much stricter rules on house building that made them much more sustainable, with things like solar panels, dual water supplies and all of those things. And I think, to go back to Ranald's point about EDF, I covered the Channel Tunnel planning rows all those years ago. France was up and running while we were still arguing about it.
There is a major...
And we've got a real problem in this country that goes back generations about infrastructure.
Yes. Yeah.
And the problem is, that you've got developers who are not always the good guys. You've got councils who are terrified but see developers as their only way out of a financial hole. And then you've got these statutory bodies who I wouldn't call eco-zealots, Natural England, but they have to be consulted on everything.
What, 80,000-page environmental assessment?
Well, who's going to read it?
We were hoping Lord Hunt would join us, but he has some technical problems at home, but his Britain Remade makes some strong points. One quick what Farage here that really, really surprised me, that is that Co-op, and there are co-ops everywhere, of course, across the country, have announced they will sell no products with any link to Israel whatsoever, but they're now selling a Palestinian beer from a Palestinian brewery. Does it make sense for Co-op to take political sides?
But they're a membership-owned company.
It's true.
And the members voted, and they stopped selling Israeli goods a long time ago. And this is new about the Palestinians. So it's their members decided.
I see. And if their members decided not to take products from a black-only state, would that be all right?
Well, it's up to them, isn't it?
I'm not sure it is.
Well, it's up to them. You'd have to ask the cardboard.
It is now acceptable to be prejudiced against Israel.
I mean, this is another example of two-tier. Exactly, it's another example of two-tier.
No, that's not the same.
But, in positive news on anti-wokery, I'm pleased that one of the founders of Ben & Jerry's has left.
Yes.
So we might get some sense restored in that regard.
We might even buy their ice cream again.
A lot of us boycotted Barclays Bank and Granny Smith apples against South Africa, against apartheid. Didn't make much difference, but...
Speaking of boycotts,
what a segue.
Absolutely brilliant segue into our next set. Now, joining us down the line in a moment, and I know he's good at tech, will be Sir Geoffrey Boycott, because we learned today that Barnsley lad, the 92-year-old Harold, better known as Dickie Bird, died today. And he was an extraordinary bloke, because in an age when umpires were hardly celebrities, Dickie was, and I did myself queue up outside Lord's, aged about 10, to get Dickie Bird's autograph. There's a statue of him in the Market Square in Barnsley. He was one hell of a character, very well known, and Geoffrey's going to pay tribute to him after the break.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Whoever would have thought that a cricket umpire could reach the levels of fame that Harold Dickie Bird did? But he did. He reached out way, way beyond cricket. He was a very distinctive character, a respected umpire. And, you know, he was there with his white cap, and people knew him way beyond cricket. He was an umpire celebrity. I don't know whether there's ever been another one like him, and his statue is there. There's a picture of him there when he was in his Yorkshire playing days. There's the statue in the Market Square in Barnsley with Harold in front of it. Barnsley boy, and he's died today, aged 92, and I'm very pleased to say I've got joining me down the line Sir Geoffrey Boycott, former Yorkshire and England cricketer. Now, Geoffrey, he didn't umpire quite as many test matches as you played, but boy, he was around for a long time, wasn't he?
He was special, mainly because he made good decisions, but he also, the players loved him. He was honest, he was fair, but he had humour. he could manage to diffuse situations. And they just liked being with him. He made you laugh. He was witty. He was twitchy when he was umpiring. He'd bend over the stumps and his elbows were out. But he just could handle the players, and that's what made everybody love him.
And of course, Geoffrey, you know, like you were from a village very, very close to Barnsley. This is a giant. He was a giant Barnsley figure, wasn't he?
Yeah, I first met him, I was 15. My Uncle Algie took me to Barnsley Cricket Club. He was a star player. He got 50 every week. He was a very, very good player. Michael Parkinson was there, sometimes played. Michael was quite good. I've known both of them for a long time. You know, they were like elder brothers to me. And so over 70 years, I've seen him as a player. Technically, he was very good. But unfortunately, he was very nervous. When I first got in the team at 16, he used to say to me, "Put my gloves on, Gerald." He was shaking like this. And I said, "My name's Geoffrey." He said, "Right, Gerald, put my gloves on, please." And he called me Gerald for about, I don't know how many years. We had a little birthday party when my daughter Emma was about 16. And she said to him at that, she said, "Dickie, you've got to stop calling him Gerald. His name's Geoffrey." So from then on, I got Geoffrey. And he loved it. He loved Emma. He said to her, he said, "If I had a daughter, I'd like to be just like you." She said, "Well, you can adopt me then, quick as a wink." He was a character. Look, he was lovable. I remember when he bought his first Jag. Have you ever seen him? He was driving his Jag, you know, this year. Not at night, because his eyes weren't quite good, but he drove it, 92, drove to the cricket, Yorkshire, Scarborough. It was amazing.
Yeah. And Geoffrey, you know, nowadays the umpire, if he's not sure, they go to the screen, they get a referral. But in the days when Dickie Bird was doing it, I mean, the umpire's decision was it, wasn't it? It was final.
Well, this was it. It was very easy for an umpire to be officious, you know, play like God. I apologise for the remark, but it's like, you know, he gave you out, you got to go. He gave you not out, you know. It was everything, powerful. And he wasn't like that. He would talk to people. They could talk to him. They could make comments. He didn't get upset at it. He diffused situations by making it funny. And that's a very special trait. And that's what endeared him to players. Players everywhere wanted him. When touring teams came to England, we didn't have neutral umpires. They always asked for Dickie because they knew they'd get a fair deal. He'd be good with them. He'd be honest, straight. And all the time they asked for him. Look, he did the first 3 cup finals at Lord's, World Cup finals. That's something. That tells you everything. And England weren't in them, remember. 3 times West Indies, twice, once India. We didn't win. Just people wanted him. They loved him. And everywhere he went, India, Pakistan, Australia, they just loved him. He was that wonderful character, a warmth, nice man.
Beautiful, beautiful tribute. And Geoffrey, very quickly, we've just had the announcement of the Ashes squad. We should have beaten India. We didn't. How are we going to get on against the old foe down under this winter?
Well, it depends how our bowlers stay fit. Can you guarantee that? If you've got pace, like Jofra Archer, might play 3 tests, and Wood play 2, fine, but they've got to stay fit. And then you've got a weapon, because fast bowling is everything in Test cricket. It's the ace in the pack. Listen, it trumps everything else. You've got pace, real, genuine, aggressive, nasty, fast pace. You put the wind up certain people and you get people out. And you actually get wickets for the guy at the other end because people are trying to get away from you. But ours have a habit of breaking down very easily. I don't know why, but they do. And that's going to be the key. I just hear that Cummins, for Australia, the captain, has been fit for a long time now, been brilliant for him. But he's got a back injury for the first time. So whoever stays fit all the time, it's going to have a big impact because I think we're slightly better batting than them. I know we're not great, but we've got some top players. Joe Root and Stokes plays well. But we're a bit better than them, but fast bowling key.
Right. Geoffrey, thank you so very much for coming on the show. Always a pleasure to have you, and super tribute to Dickie Bird. Thank you very much. Well, Ranul, you're a big cricket fan, and as I say, it is interesting, isn't it? Whether you're a cricket fan or not, people of that era, they knew who this man was.
Well, he transcended generations because he umpired for so long, an umpiring career spanning almost 30 years.
Yes.
And, you know, therefore, he reached so many people in what he did. And as we've just heard from Sir Geoffrey, he was a character. He operated in a particular way. He was so well liked by players of all teams, as we've just heard. So a fantastic man, twice honoured by Her Late Majesty for his outstanding commitment and service to cricket. So this is a sad day for cricket, but also for the country.
And for Barnsley.
Absolutely.
But how extraordinary to hear what Geoffrey was saying about him being so nervous to play, and yet you would think going out as an umpire, particularly on those big internationals...
Pressure was enormous.
The pressure must have been huge.
It was, and I remember, you know, certainly in the 70s, when there were no, you know, and if the umpire did make a bad call, they'd be on the back page and the front page sometimes. I mean, almost a diplomatic incident. So the pressure was huge on them.
But somehow or other, he had that ability to focus, and he was, you know, as Geoffrey said, you know, very, very fair.
What I thought was lovely also was Geoffrey saying that he would diffuse a difficult situation. Because, I mean, let's face it, you know, fast bowlers, batsmen, and the game in those days was damn dangerous. I mean, it was very, very dangerous. And what I loved what Geoffrey said was that he'd bring humour into things. And I just, and maybe I'm getting old, but I don't think we get as much humour in any walk of life now as we used to.
No. Well, I think everything that Geoffrey said about Dickie Bird are the qualities that we should all hope for in public life.
We would aspire.
I think we should.
We would aspire. Well, somebody who's always aspired to do that. And, you know, blessed are the peacemakers, and there was Boris Johnson and former Tory ministers rowing like Billy-O last week over dinner. But you stepped in as a peacemaker, and that was the point Geoffrey was making, was that actually Dickie Bird was good as a peacemaker.
And he could deal with these great characters. There's a lovely story about Dennis Lilly bowling, not getting the wickets, appealing again and again, finally goes down on one knee to appeal to Dickie Bird. Dickie Bird says, you may be the best bowler in the world, but that's still not out. And Lilly replies, well, you're the best umpire in the world, so I'm accepting it. And they loved him.
That's lovely.
And this story John Major comes out of very well. He was invited to Chequers, and he always turned up very early for things. So for lunch, he got there at 9:30. And John Major, and Prime Ministers, even ones one isn't a great fan of, are quite busy, invites him in, hears he's there, doesn't wait until 12:30, invites him in and gives him a tour of Chequers. But I love this determination to be on time for things. It means you're hours early. I've very occasionally done that to my wife when we've sat in places reading the Sunday papers. I've been too early.
I thought one of the stories I heard about Dickie Bird was if he wasn't sure whether the catch had been clean, whether the ball had hit the ground, a slip catch or whatever, he'd walk up to them and say, now, I know you're a good church going lad on a Sunday, you know, tell us honestly.
Trust,
but also putting some pressure on the player as well.
And understanding the rules of cricket, he always gave the batsman the benefit of the doubt, which is what the rules say.
Say you should do.
And I think that was why people trusted him so much. And he was a genuine character. When you see those pictures of him, and he's got his twitches and so on and so forth, it's not done for the cameras. There are some people who perform for the cameras, but he was just who he was.
Genuinely eccentric.
And a twinkle.
Yeah, we've paid a great tribute to him, and Geoffrey coming on was fantastic.
Well, you know my greatest moment broadcasting on GB News was when Lady Boycott sent in a male mog, which is my highest achievement.
Rachel, yes. Now, time running short, but please tell us, State of the Nation tonight, Jacob, what will you be discussing?
Got to talk about Donald Trump and that amazing speech at the UN, which, well, I think it's you at the European Parliament. It's that sort of, you tell it to them. Though he took a little longer than you did. I think you only had 2 or 3 minutes, and he went on for the best part of an hour.
He did. He was supposed to speak for 15 minutes.
Yes.
He spoke for an hour. And what I loved was just the stunned silence of the whole thing.
Yes, and he teases them. Yeah. And they don't realise. They can't. They get so cross. I think it's marvellous.
Well, there we are, Jacob, in very, very, very buoyant mood ahead of this show over the course of the next hour. Of course, it did drive some people mad, including some of his panel. I don't know. Thank you to my panel. Let's be back with you tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. But first, let's have a look at the all-important weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, very good evening to you. I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. You might need to turn your heating on again tonight as it is going to turn a little chilly once more with some clear skies and light winds, all due to an area of high pressure, the perfect ingredients for our temperatures to take a bit of a drop. Worth bearing in mind, we still have an occluded front across parts of the southeast, so a few showery bursts still to come here and a bit of showery rain pushing into some eastern parts overnight as well, but otherwise it is a dry picture with some lengthy clear skies. Like I said, those temperatures will be dropping. Towns and cities falling to mid to high single figures. Rural spots dipping close to or perhaps even a little bit below freezing in some places. So a touch of grass frost, even a bit of air frost perhaps, particularly across some parts of Scotland. Now, as we go through tomorrow morning, still some showers across parts of East Anglia and maybe Kent, and there may be a few other showers across southern parts through tomorrow itself, but generally dry. A band of cloud with some outbreaks of rain lingering across some central and northern parts of England. A dry start across Northern Ireland and mostly bright and fine across parts of Scotland, albeit just a little bit of cloud and a few spots of rain towards the far east and southeast. Through the day itself, that band of cloud and any rain is going to fizzle out as it gradually edges a bit further westward. So apart from one or two showers towards the south and maybe across some parts of Wales and southwest England, it is going to be a dry picture by the afternoon with some sunny breaks. Yes, clouds building through the day, but some decent sunshine on offer, and in the sunshine feeling warm enough even though temperatures are a touch below average for the time of year. Another chilly night to come as we go through tomorrow night and into Thursday, and then a fine picture through Thursday itself for most, though some blustery winds towards the northwest and also towards the southeast, and here there will be a bit more cloud and perhaps one or two showers. More fine weather on Friday, but by Saturday, well, that's when we could see a band of rain pushing its way in. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to win a motorhome and cash in our biggest giveaway to date. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be the proud owner of this 2025 Benamar Primero. It comfortably accommodates 4 people and can be driven on your standard driving licence. Plus, you'll also bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like. Make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.